All right, class, always you want to make sure that you are looking at the right lesson. This is Algebra 1, lesson 3.4%. And don't forget, we're looking for you to take notes on these. And so we'll take any questions you might have tomorrow in class. All right, here we go, lesson 3.4%. And what is a percent? Simply a ratio of a number to 100. A ratio of a number to 100. Some would put it this way, per 100. So the ratio of a number to 100, that's what percents are. When you talk about percents, you don't need to write this in your notes. You know, you're talking about 20%. What are you saying here? You're really saying 20 of 100, right? 20 of 100. That's the idea, that's the concept here of percents, right? So what's 20%? Really 20 out of every 100. Okay, hopefully you remember the main formula for figuring out percents. This is key, and I would memorize that. Very important aspect here, and so this is something you want to memorize. And if you remember, it goes like this. The number equals, and I'm going to go red here, the percent times, do you remember what it is? Times the of number. The number equals the percent times the of number. You should memorize this, right? This is something you've got to memorize. This is really the key to everything. If you can keep this in your brain and in the forefront of your mind, then that's going to be great, and you're going to do well in a lot of these problems. I think our book puts it this way, and it's the first time I've seen a formula like this, but the part equals the percent times the whole, and that's really what's going on here. The of number is the whole, the number is the part, the percent is the percent. Now, just a reminder, remember, whenever you're dealing with the percent, percents in formulas are always in what form? Do you remember? All right, always in decimal form. In decimal form. So we always have to keep that in mind whenever we're using a percent in a formula, then it's going to be in decimal form. All right, A, solving for the number. Solving for the number. This is by far the easiest way, the easiest thing to solve for, and it's pretty straightforward. All you got to do is make sure that you know what indeed is going on. So a couple examples here. Number one, what is 32% of 75? What is 32% of 75? It's a common question. All right, so I'm going to write my formula. Number equals percent times the of number. What am I looking for? Well, I know this. I know they told me 32%. In decimal form, that's 0.32. And I know they told me of 75. So obviously I'm looking for the number, right? I'm looking for the part. 32% of 75 is a part of the 75. So I just take my calculator out, and I'm going to punch in 0.32, and I'm going to multiply that times 75, and the result is 24. And that's it. So n equals 24. So here's what we said. 24 is 32% of 75. So remember, on any problem like this, we want to ask the mams, right? We want to ask the mams. And if you remember from last year, the mams is, does my answer make sense? And you always got to pause. Does 24 sound like it's 32% of 75? Yes, it does, because we can all do 50% in our head, right? That's half. Okay, we're not great at half of 75, but we know it's what, somewhere around 32 and 30, 37 and a half. All right, so I should be lower than that. Yeah, it's in the ballpark. My answer makes sense. I'm ready to roll on. Let's do a second one here. Number two. How about this? 7.5% of 210. 7.5% of 210. Okay, we're going to start the same way all the time. Start with the formula. Number equals percent times the of number. Always start with the formula. Always start with the formula. Later on, when you're in physics and such, you're going to be happy that you learned to always start with the formula. All right, we're looking for the part. What would you put for 7.5%? All right, hopefully you said 0.075, right? That's 7.5%. The of number is clearly 210. And again, we're just going to take our calculator, 0.075 times 210. I've got 15.75. Now remember, normally we round off to one decimal place, except when the number naturally ends. This one does. And so I'm just going to take it to those two decimal places. And as always, I'm going to ask the ma'ams. It's almost 16. Does that sound like it's about 7.5% of 200? My answer would be yes. How about this? What's 10% of 210? Well, 10% knock off the 0 would be 21. I got to be lower than that. I am lower, but I'm in the ballpark. I like my answer. My answer makes sense. I am ready to roll on. Right, so that's the idea, and that's what we're doing here. I'm going to copy this formula so I can keep it in front of you guys. And so, oh, beautiful. All right. No biggie. Let's just not even worry about it. All right, here we go. So B, how about solving for the number? Solving for the number. All right, so B is solving for the of number. Solving for the of number. Solving for the of number. All right, how will problems like this look? Maybe something like this. 21 is 10% of what number? 21 is 10% of what number? Now, I just talked about this a minute ago. But again, let's learn the concepts on easy problems so we can do hard problems. All right, start with the formula. Number equals percent times the of number. Remember, the part equals percent times the whole. Our part is 21. What's our percent? 10%. What are we looking for in this case? We're looking for the of number, right? 21 equals 0.1 times n. All right, it's just an equation. Things multiply times a variable. You move by multiplying both sides by the reciprocal. In this case, we can take the shortcut, right? And we're going to divide both sides by 0.1. It's going to isolate our variable. And we're just taking our calculator. 21 divided by 0.1. I've got 210, and I'm going to ask the ma'ams. Does my answer make sense? 21 is 10% of 210. Yes, I like it. Sounds good. Sounds like we're in great shape. That's what I want to do. Let's do a second one of these. Number 2. How about something like this? 6.25% of what number is 75? 6.25% of what number is 75? How are we going to start? Formula. Number equals percent times the of number. Okay. Fill in what you know. You know the percent. What would you put for 6.25%? 0.06. That's the 6%, right? How do you say a quarter? It's 0.25, so you just include the 25, right? 0.0625. And remember here, the part is 75. The of number is what we're looking for. So 75 equals 0.0625 times n. Okay, easy to finish this off. Let's do the shortcut and divide both sides by 0.0625. It's going to isolate our variable. So on my calculator, I'm taking 75 and dividing by 0.0625. And I get 120. And again, I'm going to ask the ma'ams. So let me go back and think. Is 75 about 6.25% of 120? No. No. Something happened there. Let me go back and punch this in again. 75 divided by 0.0625. Aha. All right, now that happened. I didn't do that on purpose. That's just what happened. When I punched in the decimal point in my calculator, for some reason, it didn't come out. And when I went back and asked the ma'ams, I didn't like my answer. 75 is not 6.25% of 120. It should have been 1,200. Is 75 about 6.25% of 1,200? Yeah, now I like my answer. And again, I didn't plan that. That's just the way it happened, and that's what's going to happen to you guys as well. Right? You got to ask the ma'ams. You got to ask the ma'ams. You got to ask the ma'ams. Let's do another one. Let's do the next kind. C. C, solving for the percent. Solving for the percent. Solving for the percent. All right. Don't forget this. In the formula, what is the form of the percent? It's decimal form. So, let's put it this way. Remember to change the percent from decimal form to percent form. Right? Because the formula is going to give it to us in a decimal form. You'll see that in a minute. Right? So you're going to see problems like this. 20 is what percent of 70? 20 is what percent of 70? 20 is what percent of 70? So we're going to start with our formula, right? Number, part, equals percent times the of number, the whole, right? Part equals percent times the whole. Number equals percent times the of number. All right, let's fill in what we've got. The of number is clearly 70. It's obvious. What percent is the variable? And therefore then 20 has to be the number. It is the part. And there's our formula. Okay, well, look, here we are again. And all we got to do is isolate the p all by itself on the right-hand side of the equation. Things multiply times variable. You multiply both sides by the reciprocal. I'll do the shortcut after this. I just want to keep that fresh in your mind, right? So we're multiplying by the reciprocal, and we're going to take our calculator. We're going to do 20 divided by 70. Now, I'm going to show you what my calculator reads. 0.285714, etc. equals P, right? So, we're not normally going to write the number like that, but remember, this is the percent in decimal form. Do you remember how to change a percent in decimal form to percent form? If you remember, you got to move the decimal place 2 places to the right, right? In effect, you're multiplying it times 100%. You'll also remember we round to 1 decimal place. So I want to round to the place of that 5. I look at the number to the right. If it's 5 or bigger, I increase that number in my place. So hopefully you think 25.6% is the answer. Again, I'm going to ask the ma'ams. Is 20 about 28.6% of 70? Yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. 35 is 50%. And I need to be lower than that. Yeah, that's a viable answer. It makes sense to me. And I'm going to go on to my next problem. But you want to ask the ma'ams. You want to ask the ma'ams. You have to ask the ma'ams. You've got to be careful there. Let's do another one of this type, number 2. Bill had $30 Bill had $30 and gains $20. What percent did he gain? What percent did he gain? Bill had $30 and gains $20. What percent did he gain? All right, so when we do our formula, number equals percent times the of number. It's a little unclear what the of number is. However, if we think of part equals percent times the whole, part equals percent times the whole, then we're going to be in a little bit better shape. Now, word problems are always that. You've got to think through. What's the whole going to be? Well, the whole is going to be this 30 plus the 20, right? He gains 20. He now has 50. Really what this question is asking is 30 is what percent of 50? 30 is what percent of 50? Alright, actually, my bad. He gains 20. We want to figure out the percent that he gained. We have to say 20 is what percent of 50. Alright, so the part is 20. It's the gain. We're looking for the percent. And what's the whole here? 50. 20 is what percent of 50. Alright, and so again, to finish this is very simplistic. Things multiplied times a variable, you move by multiplying by the reciprocal, or we can do the shortcut. Alright, so be careful. Again, remember, we're going to get this in decimal form. And usually I'm going to look at my calculator. So I'm going to take 20 divided by 50. Alright, my calculator says this. I'm just going to do this off the side. It says 0.4. And so I'm remembering, hey, I've got to move this decimal point 2 places to the left. And I get 40%. And I'm going to ask myself, he gained $20. Is 20 a 40% gain? You know what? I don't like this question. Oh, brother. It's a bad example. This is a bad example. And I just messed it up. Okay, but look, this is again another example of asking demands. And you can see that even as a teacher, I have to go back and I have to ask myself, does this make sense? Okay, he had $30. He gains 20. He's now up to 50. Okay, 20, the amount of gain, he had 30. He gains 20 more. That's not a 40% gain. So I don't like that. I don't like my answer. And I think my first thought was the correct one. He started with 30, and that's what percent of the whole of the 50. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 50, right, to move to 50. Oops. I can divide both sides by the 50, right, to isolate the variable. Now I do 30 divided by 50, I get 0.6, which is 60%. Now I'm feeling better. A 20% gain when I had 30 to begin with. $20 gain when I had 30 to begin with. That's 60%. I like that. And I'm going on to the next question. All right, again, I know those are tricky. You've got to just hang in there and ask the demands. All right, number 3, miscellaneous problems. Miscellaneous problems. So A, let's just refresh your memory, percent to fractions. Percents to fractions. So we'll just do one simplistic example here. Let's suppose you had 15%. All you have to do is just remember what percent is. Percent means per every 100. Once you change it to a fraction, you no longer have the percent symbol. And look, like always at this point, you want to look to reduce. You always reduce if possible. What's a 15? 3 times 5. What's 100? 5 times 20. Our common 5's divide out, and our answer is going to be 3/20. So changing a percent to a fraction, you're going to remove the percent symbol, put it over 100, that's what percent means, and then reduce if possible. All right, how about decimal to fraction? How about a decimal to a fraction? Decimal to fraction. So let's suppose we had something like 0.22, right? 0.22, and you have to change that to a percent, or I'm sorry, to a fraction. Well, what you need to do is get rid of the decimals. That 0.22 is 2 decimal places. You need to multiply it by 100. That's going to get rid of that decimal. But remember, I need to multiply by a form of 1. So I'm going to multiply it times 100 over 100. 100 times 0.22 is 22. 1 times 100 is 100. Again, I need to look to reduce. 22 is a 2 times 11. And 100 is a 2 times 50. And I got 11 50ths, right? 11 50ths. So changing from a decimal to a fraction, you multiply by 100 over 100. And that's going to take care of that. Now, there are some instances when you can go less than that. If you had simply, something like 0.7, right? In this case, the shorter methodology would multiply by 10 over 10. The reason being is you only have one place for that decimal point needs to move. So in this case, 7 times 10, a 0.7 is 7, and then 1 times 10 is 10. That's already reduced, and that's the answer, 7/10. All right, one more thing, C. One more. How about a fraction to a percent? A fraction to a percent. A fraction to a percent. We'll do just a couple quick examples here. All right, let's do something we know. 3/4. Well, that doesn't look like a 4. 3/4. All right, so as you know, you're supposed to take the top and you're supposed to divide it by the bottom, right? So that's all you can do. You can take your calculator out, and you're going to do 3 divided by 4. Top always divided by the bottom, and you get 0.75. And then to change it to a percent, you have to multiply times 100%. Or if you remember the shortcut, move the decimal point 2 places to the right. And so this is 75%. Again, we should have known that going in, but I want to show you the procedure on something that's easy. Right? Divide the top by the bottom, and then multiply by 100%. What if it's a mixed number? Don't let that throw you off. That's not a big deal. What if we had something like 11 1/5? 11 1/5. So remember, first thing we want is a decimal. So the 11 stays the 11. And then we'll get the decimal part out of the 1/5. So again, just take your calculator, take the 1 divided by the 5, or you might know that that is a 0.2. Now I have 11.2. I'm now going to multiply that times 100%, right? So 11.2 times 100%. And of course we get, in this case, 1,120%. 1,120%. Okay. 1 is 100%, 2 is 200%. Right, I'm looking at this front number. 3 would be 300%, 4 would be 400%. So 11 would be 1,100%. And then you got the 1/5, which is an additional 20%. Okay. So you can have over 100% in problems like this, and that's the way that works. Okay, that's the lesson. I hope you understood it. I know a little bobble there in the middle, but that's okay. That's the way the problems go, and that's what you're going to have to do as well. You got to think through these. It takes thought, and you just have to work your way through it. Okay, we'll do these in class tomorrow. I hope you have a good night.